So Hannah's on a book buying ban for the month of February, but that doesn't mean she still won't text me for like an hour today about what books
Listen.
she should buy off Book Outlet.
Shut up. I'm on Book Outlet now because you mentioned it.
We're recording the podcast.
I can multitask.
Welcome to another episode of Midlight Crisis, a real podcast hosted by three grown-up biologists revisiting books from our teens, and it's totally cool. I am one of your hosts, Sophie, but today I have a randomly generated fantasy name that you can call me instead. That name is a little too real.
Uh-oh.
And actually not really appropriate for a fantasy setting,
Oh.
but listen. My name is Emin Screen Lover.
Oh.
Oh. I mean,
Oh.
you could just be really into, like, changing screens.
Yeah.
Like,
Or like smoke screens.
ooh, smoke screens.
Yes.
It would depend on the
I
kind of
love it.
fantasy.
Yeah. Exactly, I say as I push my blue light filtering glasses up my face. That
Yes.
one.
I mean, sci-fi fantasy is like the name of the genre, right? You're just
Yeah.
in the sci-fi half.
There
Yeah.
you go, yeah.
It's basically fantasy.
Science fiction is just fantasy with technology?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question mark?
Question mark? Who's to say? Anyway, who are you guys?
My name's Sam, but today I can be called by my fantasy name, which is Jake Godscloth.
Wow.
I'm
Sorry, I missed your
Godscloth.
last name.
Yeah, what's
Godscloth.
Sorry, yeah. I was
God
sorry,
Squad?
say it one more time.
God's cloth.
Okay.
God's cloth.
I
Okay.
mean,
God's
Jake
cloth.
Godscloth. Wow.
You're a priest. Jake!
So
How
the
did
way,
you get Jake?
yeah. So to peek behind the curtain, the way the generator works is it mashes two halves of like a name together. So to get Jake is just very funny.
I'm Jake.
You got something that started with J-A and something that ended with K-E, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
I
I'm a
love
God's
that.
cloth.
God's cloth, yeah.
All right, Jake.
Father Jake.
Father Jake, the
Glad
least
to have
religious
you.
person. Welcome to my pagan church.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Great. All right.
Wow. Well, thank you for inviting me to your church, Father
Yeah.
Jake.
You're welcome.
My name is Hannah, but for the purposes of today's podcast, you can call me by my randomly generated fantasy name, which is Willweed Potato Killer.
Excuse
Wait,
me?
what? Willow Potato Killer?
Willweed Potato Killer.
Willweed Potato.
I feel like a different inflection is maybe better, like Willweed Potato Killer?
Will it?
Will the weed
Will?
kill the potato killer?
No.
Yeah, your name is more like a sentence missing one verb.
Missing a
Yeah.
couple articles.
Yeah.
Willweed Potato Killer?
Yeah. It's like a direct translation from another language where they don't put words in the same order. Like the
Yeah.
verb is at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like German, I think.
Sure.
You know, other languages.
Yeah.
All right, we've got Jake and Google Translate here with us today.
Jake.
This might be the only episode where I refer to you by your fantasy name a few times.
That's
Yep.
fair.
All right, Jake, wanna tell us what happened in the first chapter?
Yes.
Aragon. Sorry, we're reading Aragon.
So the chapter, A Song for the Road, starts with just that. A song sang by Brahm on the road, which is prompted by
Wow.
Aragon asking Brahm about the sea. The rest of the chapter is pretty lackluster. Aragon, air quote, hardens up, though,
Oh.
so I guess that's something. By the end, they make it to Teirm, where Brahm decides they will now go by the most non-fantasy names, kind of like Jake, Neil and Evan. The
I'm
end.
Jake.
Fit right in.
I'm Jake, and this is my nephew, Jake.
Yes, these are my, I don't know what, Neil and Evan. You can throw potatoes at them, potato killer.
Excellent. I'm the killer with potatoes, not the killer of potatoes.
Oh,
That's a good voice.
That's the deception there. Is you think that it's a potato killer, but really he kills with the potatoes.
Yeah.
No, I pelt my enemies with spuds.
I feel like you're a bug.
Yeah, anyway. The taste of Teirm could be potatoes. We don't know yet,
Yeah.
but we'll find out. The intrepid trio arrives at the walled port city of Teirm. Saphira is disgruntled at having to hide away from them, and Aragon is also disgruntled by being in such a large city with such an unfamiliar vibe. He does marvel at the fact that it's built to be easily defensible, which Brom explains is because it keeps getting burned down and attacked by pirates and stuff. They trick their way through the gates and into the city with the classic dim-witted old man and his caring youngster routine, and go looking for someone who knows where they can find Brom's old friend Jode. Then they get directions from a man named Martin in a tavern who tells them that Jode lives next to Angela, the herbalist, and he also tells them that the Urgles have all moved south and that specific merchants' ships are being mysteriously vanished, perhaps by magic. The intrigue.
Whoa.
Oh.
You can't see the
Exciting.
gesture I'm doing, but it's the sneaky hand gesture that Sophia Nygaard does.
Sneaky indeed. Until Sam mentioned it, I didn't notice that just like, yeah, everyone has like fantasy ass names.
Yeah.
And then you can just immediately tell when Christopher Paolini like phoned it in and was like, and this character's named Martin.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you've had what? Garrow, Brom, Aragon,
Roran, the cousin.
Roran. Yeah.
Yeah.
Horst, the blacksmith.
Yeah.
Even like the guy they're going to visit is Jode. Like,
Yeah. Just all very
Yeah.
fantasy-esque names, and then all of a sudden he's just like, you will be Evan and I will be Neil.
yeah.
It's almost like in the north, in Teirm, people have like more normal names, maybe, and that's why Brom picks those ones. Because like the two people
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
that are named, other than Jode, who like I don't know if he's from Teirm or not, are Martin and Angela, which are just like
yeah,
That's a good point.
regular names.
regular
Yeah.
names.
You bring up a good point, Hannah.
It's something
Thanks,
I was
I
thinking
try.
about this, like, I mean, I think about this a lot, but it's like one of those things that is one of those accidental world building things
Yeah.
where it's always the stuff you don't think about too hard when you include it that ends up being like, oh, dang, there's menus in The Lord of the Rings. because what are they? The orcs?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
They say meat's back on the menu, boys. And
Yeah.
it's like, wait, hold on.
I never thought of that
Me
until
neither.
I saw like a meme or something about it. I think it was on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I never even like thought of that, but it's a really good point. It's like, wait, how would an orc know what a menu is?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like in this case, because I was thinking about it already, because when they arrive at this city, they both put on accents, but they don't say what the accent is, or there's no reference to people having accents like, oh, he had the sound of someone from Teirm, you know, like
Yeah.
there's no indication that there are accents in different regions,
Yeah.
but they immediately put one on to be like, this'll throw them off. It's, I don't know, it's strange. Also because like I feel like by coming up with this elaborate story, by being like, yeah, we both have wild accents and this guy had heat stroke so badly that he kind of doesn't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah.
That's way more memorable than just being like, hi, we talk totally normally. Yeah, we're just here to buy stuff. Cool. Okay, bye.
Yeah,
You
like
know?
we are from the country and we're
Yeah.
here to visit the city. Like,
Yeah, there's stuff here we can get. Cool.
Mhm.
See ya. It's fine though.
yeah.
It's fine.
Brom had some worry about whether like news of he and Aragon had traveled to the city yet. So maybe they were trying to preempt that by being like, ooh, look, I am dim-witted and clearly not this like mysterious magical traveler with a dragon rider or
Right.
whatever.
Yeah, I guess
But-
that makes sense.
Maybe.
But like at that point, it's like if they heard that there's an old dude and a young man coming in, it's like
Mhm.
you probably should have just like tried to fight that part instead of being
Yeah.
like, we have accents now.
It's like, ooh.
That'll get them.
It's like, I don't know if you guys have seen Encanto yet, but one of the
Yeah.
characters, yeah, he goes, I used to say that my real gift was acting. And it's kind of like that, where it's like, because the character in question is not very convincing
No.
when he's acting.
Speaking of weird names.
Oh, yes, sorry, I
This
got
is-
distracted.
Yeah. I noticed that like every name introduced in this chapter of like a place is just like a weird jumble of vowels.
Yeah.
Like
Mm.
none of them are just easy to pronounce. Like there's Woadark, Toark, Teirm, which I still don't know how to pronounce. So this is a stupid joke. They're following this river, the Toark River,
Yeah.
to get to the ocean, to get to this town. And Brahm says, oh yeah, right in the middle of this river is a lake called the Woadark. And one of the rivers goes into the lake, I think, and one comes out. I
No.
assume.
No, I had to read that passage a couple times because it was kind of confusing. But the Woa Dark Lake is like in the spine, like at the top of a mountain, and there's a river flowing away from it in each direction.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's the source. So there
Right.
must be a spring or something in the top of this mountain.
Yeah.
That would make
So
sense.
in that case,
Yeah.
instead of naming both the rivers Tuark, they probably should have named them Away Ark.
Oh,
Damn it,
no.
Because it's
Sophie.
the Woadark. Anyway,
Ugh.
there's a lot to talk about in these chapters, can you tell?
Yeah, we all three of us came to this to our pre-pro session being like, I don't have anything to talk about.
Nothing.
Which is like so wild because a good portion of these chapters is them going through the spine. And
Yeah.
like the one thing we're told at the beginning of the book is that wild shit happens in the spine all the time.
But no wild shit has happened.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And like they open it by being like, watch out, we're on this main road. People are gonna see us. Saphira better hide. Oh my god, we're going into the spine. Something could happen. And then nothing happens.
Nothing
It's like,
happens.
what the hell? This didn't need to be a whole chapter.
Yeah, the song for the road chapter, I mean both of them, but particularly that first one is very transitional. It's just like, okay, where were they last time? Darrett, and this is the chapter where we get from Darrett to the next place. It's like we just are there.
Yeah.
I was very interested by the kind of like throwaway line of how Saphira has to fly super close to the ground to avoid being seen.
Uh-huh.
Which, like, it makes sense because if she was, above, people would be able to see her because, you have a greater line of sight from a higher elevation. But in one of the previous chapters, she was flying high enough that she could have been mistaken for a bird.
Yeah.
Which seems both easier and
Yeah.
safer than, like, roller coastering her way along the plains and, like, dipping in and out of little valleys and stuff.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say too, like, wouldn't there just be so much interference to fly that close to the ground? Like, I get on the plains, maybe not, but like, still, I feel like
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense. Wouldn't it be better to just be mistaken, yeah, like you said, as a bird?
Yeah. Well, and she's so big that, like, her wingspan must be enormous and, like, close to the ground for something as big as Saphira, who at this point, all we know is she's bigger than a horse.
Yeah.
But that means, like, her wingspan has to be at
Gigantic.
least notably longer than a horse is tall.
Yeah.
Well, especially since she's like, because we talked about this last time about how we know not all dragons are blue, but like blue
Mhm.
would be good for keeping hidden in the sky, right? Against the
Yeah.
backdrop of blue.
Yeah.
So like you'd think from below she'd be harder to see than like horizontally, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even, like, walking next to them on the road seems like it would be a little more practical than flying very low.
Yeah.
Which would still be high enough that people would be able to see her because she would be higher than a horse. Like, at least if she's on the road with them, they would see someone approaching at the same time that that person saw them, and she could, like, fucking duck, or Aragon could do some camouflage magic that Bram hasn't told him about yet.
And then Brahm will get mad at him for doing it or not doing it, as the case may be.
Yes.
Yeah. Who knows? His reaction depends on the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense that she wouldn't just be like super high up.
Yeah. It was a very interesting line
Yeah.
to just kind of toss in there.
Yeah, because like I assume like, I know that a lot of big raptors, their flying method is to, like, circle up a thermal and then, like, glide to the next one and then circle up and then glide so that, like, they kind of get lifted by warm air rising. And I assume for something like a dragon, like, she's probably not just, like, flapping constantly. Like, that
Yeah.
seems not energetically viable.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Also because she'd go way faster than them.
Yeah, she would have to fly
Like, she'd have to
real
fly
slow.
back and forth a lot.
Yeah. I wonder if there's some reason she can't walk long distance. Like, maybe flying is more energetically practical for her, because if she has to be close to the ground, I really can't see a reason why she couldn't just be walking. But maybe
Yeah.
there is one.
Well, because I think we had talked about how one of the possible reasons for the 6 limbs of the dragons is that their original front limbs were the wings, and then they like magicked front legs for battle
Yeah.
onto them. And so maybe it's just that, like, because they have those like front claws that are serrated or whatever,
Yeah.
maybe they're good for like holding and standing, but maybe they aren't good for walking.
That would make sense.
Yeah, but that does just make me think of Saphira walking around like a kangaroo with wings.
Oh my god, yes.
Which would be cute as hell.
Or like a bird.
Yeah, but birds don't have giant forelimbs.
Oh, okay. You mean like after the 6th
Yes,
set of...
sorry,
Yeah,
like
okay.
current
Yes, got it.
Saphira.
Current
But
Saphira,
her
okay.
front legs, for whatever reason, are not adapted well to walking, so she has to walk on her hind legs.
Yeah. It would be cool if like there was some contortion where she could still like walk on the wing hands
Yeah,
or something, you know, like a
bat.
pterosaur.
Yeah, a wyvern.
Wyverns
The
or
two
Yeah.
normal things people immediately jump to: bats and pterosaurs.
I wouldn't expect you to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yep.
You would go there, and both Hannah and I were like, wyverns? Wyverns?
Yeah.
Wyverns?
Bats?
Is it wyverns? Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I've always pronounced it, but I learned that from
can
a
be
book when I
either.
was like 12, so.
I know, I've heard it both ways, so I just never know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's made up, so.
Exactly.
So,
But that's
exactly.
how they walk.
Yes.
Yeah. That would be fun.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Because that's how they did it in Game of Thrones, right? Like how the dragons there, they walked on their wing.
Yeah, they were
I love that.
wyverns.
I like that theory though, that Saphira can't really walk long
Yeah.
distances.
I hadn't really thought about it, but like, I'm very interested now in her like physiology
Yeah.
that would make that the case.
Because I feel like people who haven't fully like researched how flying works, or like, you know, organisms evolving flight, would assume that a thing that's capable of flying would fly instead of walk.
Yeah.
But like, especially if you're not, like, if you have to be slow to keep up with horses, right? Like, if you don't have to be flying, you probably wouldn't.
Yeah. As the resident overuser of the phrase energetically expensive on this podcast, flying is that.
Yes.
Flying
And
is that
anything
thing.
that can fly, if it doesn't have to, it doesn't, to the point where there are like multiple instances of birds losing the ability to fly because if it's not a survival advantage, then it costs way too much to keep it up. Like penguins and like every bird that has evolved on an island.
Yep. All of New Zealand.
All of New
Ray
Zealand.
birds.
Yeah. It is a cool visual. Like, I'm imagining Saphira, like, zipping in her wings like a diving raptor and just, like, shooting across the plains and, like, going over and between rather these, like, little, like, bumps and knolls and stuff and, like, looking like a cool jet.
Yeah.
It's a good mental image for sure.
It is
but
good,
a little
yeah.
impractical.
Yeah, like, I don't know, if it was like, oh, she would like go really high and then do steep dives, you know, like, yeah, I would get that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we'll discuss it later more, I'm sure.
Yes. The other thing that comes up, well, there's a couple of other things in this chapter that I thought were kind of interesting. The first being how Aragon has taken to hunting, and the second being the new biome that they end up in.
Yeah. I feel fully validated that Aragon is immediately using his levitate stone magic. Because I was like, I bet Aragon's going to use this way too much.
Yes.
Or in a fight or something in the next chapter.
Yeah, he's started hunting things by shooting his pebble into them very, very quickly using magic.
I can't believe Aragon invented guns.
Oh no. Are they the true definition of finger guns? You can't tell me
That's
he
funny.
could do that.
He could. Aragon isn't clever enough to come up with actual finger guns, though.
This is
That's too
true.
funny.
That would be so funny,
That
though.
would be so funny.
I
need to write that down.
Yeah, write that down somewhere. For when we said we were going to rewrite Twilight. We'll rewrite Aragon.
We'll rewrite Aragon.
Guns.
Where Aragon has a sense of humor and Brom is like a useful mentor.
Yeah. And Saphira is
That'd be
nice,
great.
even once.
Yes.
Saphira
Okay.
is so mean.
I have something to say about that, actually.
Okay. Did we want to talk about the biome first, though?
Yeah.
Let's
Since
talk
you
about the
mentioned
biome.
it.
Yeah, they get through the spine, I guess, and
Yeah.
suddenly there is moss everywhere, the ground is damp, and there's like very mild winters and lots of mist and fog, and I was like, aha, it is the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
Edward is here.
I was like, we've arrived in British Columbia.
Yep, it's Forks.
Oh no.
Oh.
This is where they'll meet the Shade and his family, where they play baseball.
Oh no. Well, it's the crossover I don't want.
Who would win, do you think, Saphira or Edward?
Edward.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
No, what would happen is they'd start mind talking to each other and then
yes.
they'd leave.
Yeah. Wait, did we establish that Edward's mind reading went to animals? Like, other than
Saphira's-
humans?
Saphira's sentient, so would she have a mind more similar to a human than an animal?
So would Edward be able to read her mind then?
Ooh,
Couldn't
that's a good question.
he read the werewolves' minds though?
Yes, it was Alice
Yeah.
who couldn't see their future because she was
Yeah.
never one of them. Yeah, he could read their
I
mind
feel
when
like
they were
it's
in wolf
just-
form.
Anything that has like coherent sentient thought. We've already
Yeah.
talked about this.
But no, but what if he hears chickens and they're just going hi, 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 hi in their
Hi.
brains?
I mean, then Sophie would love that, as we know.
Yeah.
It would be great.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to. I had to question.
No, that's a
it.
good point.
No, that is a good question. I think he would be able to hear her.
That's
I think so,
fair.
too.
I buy it. I believe
Yeah.
it.
I would believe that Saphira could like control if he could hear her. Right?
Mm,
Like that
yeah,
seems
she
like
could
something
block it.
she'd be able to do.
Yes.
Yeah, with her mysterious dragon magic.
Yeah. What were we talking about? Oh yeah.
The Pacific Northwest.
Honestly, that's all I really had to say about it. I just thought
Yeah.
it was interesting that he like pointed it out specifically that it has changed like this.
I didn't even think Pacific Northwest. I was like, oh, it's Newfoundland just without snow. And then I was like, yeah.
Yes, the only difference is the mild winters part.
Yeah, the mild winter, which
Yeah, there's 40 centimeters of snow on the ground. Do not tell me it's mild.
it feels like minus 23 outside right now.
Ugh.
But it's going up to 10 degrees on Friday. Hey,
Oh, wow.
welcome
Big day
to
for all of us.
Newfoundland.
The only thing is because it's like medieval Europe, they wouldn't
Mhm.
be arriving at Forks. They'd be arriving at like Knife. Like-
Aw.
Sophie, you're not allowed anymore. Stop.
Sorry. I've had a very difficult 2 days, so this is the level of humor you're getting.
I never know how to react when someone else makes a dad joke.
Yeah.
I usually like that to be my stupid niche.
Anyway, thanks for bearing with me.
You're welcome.
While we're making stupid jokes, should we talk about the direct quote
Do we have
from
to?
the book where
Which one?
Aragon thinks everything about me is turning hard?
Oh yeah, he really hardens up.
Uh,
Oh, I was like, wow. It's like the first page, huh? Got it
It's
right.
like-
I mean, he's 15.
oh God.
Moving
Welcome
on.
to puberty. No,
Yeah.
the
Can you imagine if he like makes that comment to Brom and Brom is like, yes, at your age, I'm not saying.
again,
If Aragon
when
was
we
a funny
rewrite-
book.
if we rewrite this book. So good.
Oh my god. We need to make like a fan fiction account where our fan fictions are just the three of us rewriting the books we read for this podcast.
Someday when we make enough money from this podcast for me not to have a job, I'll do that.
Yeah.
Can I talk about... Well, actually,
Okay.
I want to see if you guys can guess the moment that turned my PMS hormone-ridden emotions into absolute mush.
Yes, I know exactly what it is.
Yeah?
Yeah, the moment where, like, Aragon is like... Or no, Saphira threatens him with something about, like, I'll put you on my back and never blah, 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 and he's like, I love you, too, or something. Was it that moment?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Saphira says, if anything happens, I'm going to pin you to my back and
Yeah.
never let you off. Aragon says, I love you too. And she
Yeah.
says, then I will bind you all the tighter. And I audibly went, I'm a sucker.
Yeah.
Predictable.
Oh my god. I was like sobbing over Moana yesterday. Like, this has been
Oh my
a
god.
rough couple of days.
That's fair.
That's fine.
Yeah, it happens.
Just watching a lot of Disney movies and crying.
I mean, I
Yeah.
cried twice at my microscope 2 weeks ago, so I'm with you, but my PMS was apparently 2 weeks ago.
You were at least like listening to a book, right? You weren't just sobbing at your slides?
Yeah, no, I was listening to, I was listening to the last Lunar Chronicle book, Winter, and I was listening to Beach Read, and both those books made me tear up. And I don't cry in books. Like, the only
Unlike
book
me.
that's ever made me cry is My Sister's Keeper by
Oh my
Jodi
God,
Picoult
yeah.
or whatever. Only book
Yeah.
I literally sobbed. Other than that, like, usually doesn't get me, but there I was at my microscope crying.
Man.
So,
I'm going to keep us on track
thank you.
if it kills me.
Good luck.
So
Good
anyway,
luck and Godspeed to you from Jake Godscloth.
Oh my god.
thanks, Jake. Thank you for the blessing, Jake. So, like, again, I specifically have said this before because Hannah loves everything about this. But I, like, they've clearly talked about, like, okay, we got to go into this town, right? Got to figure out what's going on. Here's what's happening. And Saphira is acting as though it is, like, personally an insult to her and her family that they're going into this town without her. And it's like, she's like, sticking your nose where it doesn't belong again. And it's like, Saphira, you're 90% of the reason that Aragon is on this revenge quest.
She does not realize that.
It's like, because she's acting like all I want to do is go off and live in the forest with Aragon. And it's like, cool, but that's not what you've said ever. Anyway.
Yeah, she clearly feels very left out, which is understandable, but also, like, you're a giant dragon.
Yeah.
And if you show up, you and Aragon will be killed on sight.
Yeah, it's almost like, it's weird that she just has the brain of, like, a human, you know?
Yeah.
Where she's like, wow, I wish I could go into this city with you or whatever, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know that I had a point there, really.
Well, speaking of this sort of thing, Sophie has her Mercedes lackey thing. I'm going to talk about Temeraire again.
Okay.
Because that is a thing in that series where the culture that Temeraire the dragon is born into is very, like, dragons are dragons and people are people. But dragons, particularly of, like, Temeraire's species, are particularly intelligent, like, equal or more so than people. And throughout the series, he, like, starts encountering dragons and people that come from other cultures and then starts being like, well, why can't I come into the city? And his rider, Lawrence, is like, it's literally not built for you. Like, you can't fit. And he's like, well, that's discrimination. Like, they should build it so I can come into the city. And it's like, okay, like, you're right, sure, but, like, you can't. It's very interesting in those books, watching Temeraire trying to both, like, rationalize his dragon behaviors with human behaviors. And he's like, well, I'm just attached to my rider because he's my very good friend. It has nothing to do with my, like, imprinting bond that happened when I first hatched. Like, that's complete. I am far more intelligent than that, and, like, why can't I come to the library? I want to go to the library. I don't care that the door is only 6 feet tall and I'm, like, a big enough dragon that a crew of 30 people can ride me like a boat. Like,
oh my god,
I want to go to the library. And there's like a whole thing where he wants to read books, but he can't read books because he doesn't have hands. So it's like that, but less well done.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also don't know where I was going with that. I just got really excited and wanted to
No,
talk about
that's
Temeraire.
that's what we do here. I think normally we manage to smoothly transition better, so it doesn't matter that we don't have a point. But
Yeah.
today, no.
Today is just chaos.
As an example of like the kind of really good information and like thoughtful ideas that I'm coming into this episode with, I just looked at my notes and it says they're a building with flat roofs, spelled like grooves, as if that's the plural form of roof.
Yeah.
So, you know.
We're doing our best today. I fell into the thing that a lot of modern people do, where they assume that like old-timey people couldn't build stuff
Yeah.
well and big.
Mm.
And I like, so they describe Teirm as a city contained behind a white wall, which was 100 feet tall and 30 feet thick. And I was
Right.
like, surely not.
Yeah.
I was like, surely not 100 feet tall. Like, that is wild.
It's like-
30 feet thick? Oh my god.
Yeah, like that's
Wait.
huge.
How tall is Helm's Deep?
That's not a real place.
I don't care! Is it consistent with other fantasy?
Sam.
Magic.
Because, like, for me, when you think giant wall, obviously my brain immediately goes to, like, the Great Wall of China as, like, big wall.
Big wall.
But it's not that tall, right? Because, like, in olden times, stuff didn't need to be that tall necessarily. But I stand corrected because people did build stuff that big. There's like this fort called, oh boy. There's a fort called Marangar Fort. I hope I said that right. In India, that is 118 feet tall and 21 feet wide.
Oh.
So
Okay.
Very similar.
very, very similar.
I'll note too, the deeping wall was only 20 feet high. That's all.
Probably because it's not real.
That's nice. It's real to me, Sophie. It was real to me.
Sorry, I got the number wrong. It was 20 meters wide, which is
Okay.
Oh, that's more than
69
30
feet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Nice.
I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but the only image that is in my head when it's like there's this port city with these giant fucking walls, I'm like, aha, Attack on Titan. Like, huge walls to keep out, I mean, in Teirm's case, pirates and other fiends.
Urgles?
Urgles?
Ocean Urgles?
Ocean Urgles?
It's implied that
They're
there
called
are ocean
gurgles.
No. Deleted. Podcast ended. But, like, for real, they mentioned, like, oh, Urgles stopped being on the ocean. And it's like, wait, rewind.
Do
Urgles
they sail?
were on the ocean before?
The Urgles are also another, like, sentient race. So there's no reason that they couldn't be sailors. But for some reason, it is very strange to think of them
Yeah.
as a seafaring folk.
Because you sort of see them as, like, run by somebody who is not an Urgle.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think part of
So-
the thing for me is because they are huge both vertically and horizontally and have horns, I think of them as like herd animals that you would find on a plane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think also because we first encounter them in Yazuak, which is like, I almost said a plainer town.
Yep, plainer.
A prairie town, I guess.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, the image of these gigantic horned beast men on a sailboat is a little incongruous.
It doesn't compute.
No. Unless they're like vampires and can hold their breath infinitely long and walk across the bottom of the ocean.
Maybe.
We don't know that.
We don't know that.
I actually
No.
can't find the part where it implies that they're on the ocean. It just says they've left the area. So maybe
Yeah.
they weren't on the ocean. Anyway.
But they probably would have been attacking the ships. Well, I guess they could have been attacking like any wagons that came from the city to deliver the goods that come off the ships.
Yeah, I also just like don't understand. I can't mentally figure out how the walls protect from pirates.
I'm assuming it's to prevent like the actual city rather than like the port.
Okay.
In my image, the port is outside of the city. And like the
Yeah.
city is
Okay.
walled in, and then presumably there's a portcullis,
Uh-huh.
whatever, and a gate that goes like to the portcullis port.
The portcullis port?
The
Yeah.
portcullis port.
The portcullis?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's on the left side of the harbor, the portcullis.
Oh
Uh,
my god.
So I'm assuming that they
Uh-huh.
unload things from the ships, then go through the gates into the walled city, and not that like the walls extend to the harbor.
That makes a lot of sense.
But that's an
Yeah.
assumption.
No, I believe you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that tracks.
Oh, and Sophie, did you notice that not only are the horses in this universe proud, the ships are also proud?
I didn't notice that. Everyone's so proud.
Everyone's so proud. At least horses, like, are alive. Ships
Yeah.
generally are not. In fantasy,
Usually.
you never know. You can get live
Yeah.
ships in fantasy. But
Yeah.
proud ships. Proud with a U, like not proud like a ship that has a prow.
Right, like WED, but UD, yeah.
Yeah.
In one of my D&D games, one of the characters is descended from a magic boat.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
How?
She's 1/4 boat.
How
No,
does that translate?
the person got turned into a boat.
Gotcha, okay.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, speaking of the ocean.
I would love to.
Yeah, see, like, I found it weird because they talk about the ocean at the beginning of the first chapter, including the song that was mentioned, a beautiful song about the ocean. But Brahms all like romantic talking about the ocean being like, it has emotion incarnate, it loves, it hates, and weeps, blah 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 blah. And then he also says that like the elves basically are obsessed with the sea.
Yeah.
But they live very far from the coast.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what? Like, I don't know. Just the implication here is so weird because it implies that, like, I mean, I get that elves are always associated with, like, forest. Gotta be deep forest elves. That's where they live. Magical and mysterious. But, like, the elves are supposed to have, you know, lived on this other continent forever. So they didn't make, like, port cities. And then the song is about a guy who is separated from his love by the ocean because he loves the ocean so much. And I'm like, okay, but they do have sailors then. But they don't have port cities or people who live near the ocean.
Brahm does say that Teirm is, like, allegedly the first place in Alagasia where elves landed. Like, that's where they came up onto the continent. So I wonder if, like, the original Teirm was an elvish city. And then, for whatever reason, that, like, drove them back into the woods when all of the human people showed up. They had to leave it.
Right. Yeah. It's just weird that, like, oh, they love the ocean, but they don't go near it.
Maybe it's more of, like, a religious thing, though. Like, maybe the ocean is, like, a deity that they have such immense respect for that they're like, stay away, but we love the ocean.
True.
Something.
I mean, or maybe it's like the three of us who all grew up in Ontario and Quebec and then moved to the ocean because of its indescribable call upon us.
Right.
Could be that.
It's just like, since no elves like live near the ocean. I mean, they obviously sailed to get back to this continent. What if it's like physiological? Like, what if they're like amphibians and they can't have salt water on their skin or something?
Maybe.
Oh, I took that the other way. I was like, maybe they want to get to the ocean so bad because they're always like sodium deprived or something.
Oh my god.
That's both valid. We don't have enough
descended
data
from whatever what is it? Anadromous? Maybe they're descended from animals that used to go back and forth from the ocean.
Wait, so maybe they're catadromous and they all like eels. Freshwater eels. And the reason they all like feel such a strong pull to the sea is that even though they like live on land near freshwater, they breed in saltwater. So they're all like, I gotta go to the ocean though.
But they only like reproduce like when they're 1,000 years old. So.
Yeah.
So they spend most of their lives just like in the forest hanging out, and then one day they're like, the ocean.
Like, I must go to the sea.
I must go to the sea.
I mean, I'm biased, but that's my favorite explanation so far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty good.
It's a
I
pretty
buy
good one.
it.
It's either that or that plus they've had later adaptations that mean they can't go in salt water.
Yeah, it could be both. I mean, catadromous fish can't really go into saltwater before they're ready.
True.
Yeah.
I suppose we should probably mention that anadromous and catadromous, which Sophie and I have both mentioned, are opposite things. Anadromous meaning you live in saltwater and breed in freshwater, and then catadromous being you live in freshwater and breed in saltwater. Just in case you didn't know that. Probably would have been helpful to say that before going into it, but
I can never remember.
yeah, it always takes me a few minutes.
Yeah, it's sometimes good that biology uses very similar words to describe opposite things, so you can be like, one of them
Is correct.
is correct. But it's also annoying because you're like, catadromous or anadromous. One of those. It's one of them.
The funny thing with that specific example for me is I cannot remember which is which, but I know that eels are catadromous and salmon are anadromous, so I have to like go backwards.
Oh.
Be like, okay,
Be like, okay,
salmon are
go.
anadromous, and therefore anadromous means you breed in freshwater.
Yes.
It's
Oh, that's fun.
It's a wild time. Brains, man.
So, like, back to the elves. We will probably talk about this later. But it's always interesting to me when, like, oh, yeah, the elves, they live in the woods. You know, like, they don't go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because for me, it feels like there needs to be a, like, biological explanation for that, right? Like, why don't they go live in the plains or something? You know, like, why haven't they made settlements at the ocean? Why haven't they done this or that? And so it's like, okay, well, they have to be in the forest for some reason, but why? They have super delicate skin. They can't be in direct sunlight. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Again, I took that in an opposite thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, the elves aren't here anymore because, I guess, secondary colonialism. They got, like, overwhelmed and driven out.
Yeah.
And, like, people don't want to live in deep, dark woods, so that's where the elves have to be. Although that doesn't really make sense because the elves all have magic, and people don't have magic and don't live very long. So you'd think elves would be able to just, like, wreck their shit.
Weren't the elves, like, endemic to another continent and then they came here?
The elves colonized first, and then the people, or the humans rather, followed them.
Right. So it was dwarves and dragons were here normally.
Yeah.
And then the elves showed up and then humans showed up.
Yeah.
Okay. Fun. I have no opinion on that.
Like, North American.
It just further cements my idea that, like, really it should have been dwarves and dragons teaming up, and then the elves showed up and were like, we want to come too.
Yeah.
But the dwarves and dragons were enemies, and they needed the kind and benevolent elves to come from across the sea and teach them how to be civilized.
Right.
I hate that.
I hate that.
Yeah,
a lot.
It's pretty cool.
Cool. Love.
Yeah.
Fantasy.
Uh-huh.
It's all made up and nothing reflects real life.
Never.
Sorry, not real life, but how certain people interpret real life.
Yeah.
That is largely wrong. Anyway.
Should we talk about the scene at the end of the Taste of Teirm chapter where somebody is, like, vanishing ships?
Yeah.
Which sounds like it's going to be a plot point, but I have absolutely no memory of it whatsoever.
Oh.
I have no idea what's going on.
No idea.
When we were reading the previous set of chapters, at the end when they said we're going to, like, the port city Teirm, I had a, like, brain blast. I'm like, oh my god, I remember some things that happened there. I'd totally forgotten about it. But this specific thing, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on here.
The only thing, because I obviously am trying to connect how this is important to their story.
Yeah.
That is being told. The only thing I could think was that, like, whoever imported the stuff is getting, like, targeted to try and get rid of the evidence. Sorry, who brought in the poison that they're trying to track. Like, that was the only thing I could think. But
what was that stuff called? Some kind of oil.
Satyr? Oh wait, no, that's the name of the plant.
That's the name of the plant. Evil flower oil.
I actually don't think they named I think they just said Satyr plant oil. What were we talking about?
Ships are disappearing. It could be pirates. It could be gurgles. It could be magic.
Could it be another dragon?
It could be a dragon. That would be cool.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Rogue dragon. It's Saphira.
Ooh, like
she's annoyed with them.
Yeah.
She's been flying ahead for like days because she's so much faster than them.
Just taking
Just
out
like
her
murdering
frustrations.
ships. Yeah.
Oh my god.
That would be a fun twist.
That'd be fun.
It would be kind of neat if it was like a wild dragon.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, Saphira's never met another dragon, but like nobody's ever met another dragon.
I mean, Brahm probably hasn't.
Surely not.
Definitely hasn't.
Nope.
I don't remember anything about this book, but if Brahm hasn't met a dragon, I will eat the entire book of Aragon.
You'll have to live stream it.
Actually, I guess Brahm has met Saphira, so I sort of just won that automatically.
Dang it. Well, you did say another dragon, I think.
Oh yeah, sure. I think I
Anyway.
said un. We'll hear it in the recording.
Un-dragon.
Dragon.
Oh my god.
Oh, chaos. What I thought you were going to say about the end of this chapter is that, so, big day. Neither of these chapters end with them going to sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Or
didn't
waking
even
up.
realize.
And the first chapter ends, like, on an actual good chapter ending.
Yeah.
Like, a punchy end, and then it's into the next chapter. It's like, wow, that's amazing. What a good time. Instead of being like, and we fell asleep. Which, you know, is a perfectly fine way to end a chapter.
Just not
every time.
Yeah.
But the end of the second chapter is like the beginning of a thought. Like, it's the beginning of a paragraph, and then the chapter ends. They're about to go find Jode. Yeah. It's like, they finished talking to the guy. Martin shrugged again and downed the last of his beer. Brahm and Aragon took their leave and headed to the west of the city, a nicer section of Teirm. The houses were clean, ornate, and large. The people in the streets wore expensive finery and walked with authority. Aragon felt conspicuous and out of place. That's the end of the chapter.
the end.
That's the end of it. That's the beginning of a chapter.
It is.
Yeah.
Like it, yeah, it was weird. I was like, are you sure?
Yeah, the structure still isn't quite there.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I know we've been like ragging on these chapters for not having much going on in them. I will say, when I read the two of them, particularly the second one, which is a little bit longer, like, I got pretty stoked, and I was like, okay, like, this is, like, hitting its stride, like, stuff is gonna start happening. I had a good time, and it made me excited.
That's good.
That's good,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like I was probably the only one, but
Yep.
I was like, oh yeah, things are gonna start happening, like, look at all of these potential plot hooks.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good point that this might be the first time that I couldn't guess what this was leading to, right? Like,
Yeah.
like I'm like, I don't know why the boats are disappearing, but it seems important.
Yeah, I guess the thing with this book is, like, you know, if something comes up, it's gonna be a thing.
Yeah.
You can just tell because of the way that it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's true of most books, though. Like,
That's
if
true,
you're
yeah.
reading a chapter, you're like, this is important.
Yeah. Especially if it's, like, the only thing that's mentioned in the chapter as being, like,
Yeah.
a potential next step.
Yeah.
I'm now thinking of this in terms of D&D. But if you're playing a game of Dungeons & Dragons and you go talk to a guy in a tavern and he goes, ooh, the ships have been disappearing, nobody knows why. It's like, that's our next
Yeah, you're like,
mission.
gotta go look at the ships.
Yep. Time
Forget
to go to the
whatever else
harbor.
we were doing, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Maybe that's why we're picking up on them really well, because we've been
All
we're
played
3
trained.
years into a D&D campaign.
That happens primarily on a ship.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're really good at boat-based misadventures.
Boat-based fantasy adventures. Yeah.
Do the next chapter titles reveal anything to us?
I don't know. Should we talk about them?
Should we?
My only last thing I wanted to say was at one point Aragon like talks about all the stuff he's learning, and he says, oh, in between learning the elven language and blah 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 blah, and I was like, the language of this native land you're calling the elven language. It's not theirs.
The thing that I noticed from that was the learning how to take care of Saphira sandwiched into other things. I'm like, I would like to learn how to take care of Saphira, please.
Yeah.
Give
What does that
me
mean?
dragon husbandry.
Where is the dragon husbandry?
Yeah. I'm imagining it involves like scale buffing.
Yeah, trimming her
You
claws.
Yeah.
I imagine the serrated claw has like a different care
Probably
method.
weird. You have to sharpen it like a sword.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know all those like scenes in fantasy movies where the character is like intimidatingly sharpening their sword very slowly on a rock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just Aragon doing that, but he's sitting like a manicurist in front of his dragon.
Okay, that's an interesting point, though. Not the manicurist. Sorry, finish your joke.
Wow, okay. No, that was the whole joke, but thanks for
Okay.
dismissing it.
No, sorry, it was a very good joke.
Thanks.
But the point sorry.
Uh-huh.
Let me start again. Like, just that animals can take care of themselves, you know? They don't really need
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
taken care of in their natural habitat.
Domesticated animals need to be taken care
Yeah,
of,
which is
raises a
like-
whole other
Exactly.
question. Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, oh, like, that implies that she needs to be, like, brushed like a horse or, you know, exercised. And it's like, so, this sentient creature, are they domesticated?
Yeah.
Maybe it's another thing where, like, again, they got these bonus arms attached. Maybe there's just stuff they can't do anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean,
Right.
there is a thing like with, for example, people, which are sentient.
Mhm.
Our bodies have evolved all sorts of weird shit that needs to be taken care of because there like wasn't selective pressure against it or whatever.
True.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I gotta brush my teeth.
Yeah.
But like wild animals don't have to do that. So maybe it's a consequence of dragons becoming like a society that they have that support from each other and like less selective pressure against them, so they can like kind of be a little more lax with how much time they can like spend on grooming behaviors and things like
Yeah.
that.
I
Wow.
liked because of the example you used. It it made it sound like you needed someone else to brush your teeth for you.
Yeah, that's where I thought this was going
I was
to.
I couldn't think of an
Do
example.
you need help?
I was like, do you need help with that?
No, but that's a good point. Like, it could be that dragons, part of their like living thing is living in groups
Yeah.
normally, and so there are things that without hands, you know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
other dragons do for them, like grooming or something.
Yeah. Like
And-
social grooming
Yeah.
is a huge thing among most social animals.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't
Great
know, maybe
point.
she can't reach the like spot underneath her wings or whatever, and
Yeah.
Aw.
The itchy spot on her back spines.
I don't know. I really want to meet some more dragons and see how they interact with each other.
Yeah.
Damn it.
They'll definitely have a whole well fleshed out social structure based on
Yeah.
them being dragons.
Yeah, for sure.
we'll see.
It definitely won't just be like elves, but bigger.
It won't be people, but in dragon bodies. Anyway, let's talk about the next chapters.
Yeah.
So the next two chapters are called An Old Friend and one that I'm very excited about, The Witch and the Werecat.
Whoa.
Ooh.
What?
Oh, I know what that is.
Wait, is that the love interest? Is the love
I have no
interest the
idea.
witch?
Part of my brain is like a very small hand is being raised. There's some
Yeah.
you have a memory of this, but I don't fully remember it yet. So but the title is exciting.
I completely forgot what the first title was because I just focused in on the witch and werecat.
The first one is An Old Friend, and I'm assuming they meet Brahm's
Jade.
friend.
Jode or Jode or
Jode. Yeah.
Jode.
Jode.
Even though from the way it's spelled, it looks like it should be pronounced like geode.
That's how I
Geode,
was
yeah.
saying it in my head, yeah.
Yeah.
But we all know we can't trust my pronunciation, so.
I
I
had
think
to
you've
check the
gotten it right.
pronunciation guide.
Every time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, in The Witch and the Werecat, I think maybe they meet a witch and a werecat.
I think
Whoa.
so.
Yeah, that's my
Bold.
guess. Yeah. I know, it's something so controversial and so brave.
I will say I was sad that we didn't actually meet a bard in A Song for the Road. I really wanted
yeah.
a bard. I just love
Yeah, it was just
Jaskier
Brom.
from The Witcher so much that I just wanted that character.
You just
Because-
wanted Jaskier in
in Aragon because these three
Yeah.
are just sucking the life out of me.
They're so
you,
dour.
you just wish you were watching The Witcher instead
Yes.
of reading Aragon.
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
Yeah.
Crushed it.
Love that.
That's probably what's happening.
Yep.
Great. Let's talk about what else we're reading. I fully don't remember what I'm currently reading. Let me just open Goodreads. I recently finished the Empire of Gold, the City of Brass
Ooh.
series, third book, and it ruined me.
Oh.
I cried so hard Like, I was sitting at my desk at like midnight sobbing.
Aw.
And I didn't sleep after. Like, I went up to go to bed and I'd just be like lying there trying to fall asleep, and I'd remember the thing that made me cry and I would start crying again.
Oh my god.
Now I don't know if I want to read this.
It's so good. It's so good, and the ending is like a happy ending. Like, things work out more or less. But
That inflection makes
wow,
me nervous.
this
Yeah.
like this one specific thing that happened, it turns out was the sobbing switch in Sophie, and I know why, but I can't talk about it because it'll be a spoiler. But
Damn.
it's because of a previous book that I've read.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, anyway, oh my god, I was a mess. Like, it was like 2 days where I just, like, if I thought about it, I would start crying.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it was intense. I like cry at books, but I don't sob. This was sobbing.
Wow.
Anyway, I also finally finished The Wolf and the Woodsman, and I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And then the other book I read was For the Wolf, which was good. I liked it, and I can't wait for the next book to come out. Yeah, that's all I read. I have been doing a lot of writing for school, so I haven't been reading a lot.
I mean, that's still like 3 books.
Yeah, good point.
You did well.
It doesn't feel like a lot because I read The Empire of Gold in 2 days, but it
Oh my
is
God.
it's a 28-hour
Oh my
audiobook.
God,
Yeah,
Sophie.
I was gonna say that book
This is
huge.
why it ruined me, because I did nothing but listen to it for like 12 hours one day.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm fine. It was so good. Okay. Someone else talk.
Oh man. Well, keeping with the theme of Cairo-based fantasy, I guess, I listened to A Master of Jinn by P. Djeli Clark. It was great. I highly recommend. It was good. It's like a murder mystery, but fantasy. I
Oh.
liked it.
Ooh.
Yeah. And then I am currently reading The Burning God, which is the Poppy War 3.
Ooh.
Electric Idol, which is a retelling of Eros and Psyche, but smutty.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't got to the smut part yet, but
That's the second one to Neon Gods, right?
it is, yeah.
That was a spicy book.
Yeah. Apparently this one is spicier, but I'm 20% in
God.
and there hasn't been a sex scene yet, so
I mean,
It's
Eros
coming for you.
is
Yeah.
the god of...
Yeah.
oh, I know. Oh, I know.
Anyway.
Yeah, and then the last book I started yesterday is An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, which is another YA fantasy series that I kind of missed out on when it like was first really big.
Yeah.
So it turns out 2022 is just Sam going back and listening or reading all of the YA fantasy books, popular YA fantasy books that she missed out on because school sucked the life out of her.
Damn.
Yeah, it does that.
So
Yeah.
you're doing it in the podcast and in real life.
Yeah. Well, I'm only doing like the real hyped ones. So like the Lunar Chronicles were really hyped, and this one is also super hyped. So I was like, okay.
I would argue Aragon was hyped.
Aragon was very
I didn't say I'm not reading Aragon.
Okay, right.
Do I like Aragon? That's another question that I will
Yeah, great point.
not
I'm
disclose
just
right
saying,
now.
maybe
How
be careful
dare you.
about the hype.
Yeah, no,
Because-
Yeah.
that's true. I mean, The Wolf and the Woodsman was highly hyped, and well,
Sure
I mean,
was.
Twilight
wasn't
was
it?
highly hyped, so...
True.
I mean, I was hyping the Twilight.
Yeah.
you
You
were the
were.
hype.
I was the
The
hype
hype
for the Twilight. Anyways, Hannah, what are you reading?
Thanks, Jake. I listened to In Harm's Way, The Sinking of the USS Indianapolis and the Extraordinary Story of Its Survivors by Doug Stanton, which, as you may have ascertained from the title, is a historical narrative book in my preferred category of maritime disasters for some reason. Really like audiobooks about boats sinking, I don't know. It was a good one. If you're looking for something in that category, it was really interesting. It wasn't too long, which is kind of the issue that a lot of them have, and it covered things very well, I would say. I also started and finished Black Sun, which was our Midlight Book Club book for February, and it's so good, you guys. Oh my god. It's my first 5-star fantasy read of this year. Like, it was
Ooh.
amazing.
I'm excited.
The story was good, the world building was good, but also, this is probably kind of like a dorky thing to say, but like the writing was so like deliberately done. It was like every single sentence had a purpose. It was so impressive. Like, I'm so impressed by the technical skills
Wow.
of Rebecca Roanhorse. Like, I was reading it just like, damn.
Yeah.
This is so impressive.
That's how I felt in her other books too, so
I should read
I'm
them.
excited. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can't imagine you'll be disappointed.
Yeah.
Since I finished both of those, I'm now currently reading The Dragon Republic by R.R.F. Kuang because Sam convinced me.
Yes!
And I will say, going from like mysterious god magic fantasy to other mysterious god magic fantasy has kind of made me a little confused.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're both very good. So, and this episode comes out on March 1st.
Oh.
Which is very
Wow.
exciting because we get to read our Midlight Book Club book for March, which is Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell, which I've heard a lot of good things about. I've heard it is gay in space, and I've been really excited to read that one. So
Hell yeah.
Yay. So if you liked this chapter of Midlight Crisis, I don't really know why you would.
TBD if we re-record it.
If you liked this chapter, let us know why. Consider rating and reviewing us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. You can talk to us and find fun-related content on social media. We are at Midlight Pod on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and all chapters of the show thus far are available on our website, midlightpod.podbean.com, and on YouTube.
And now, a poem
Oh.
from the elves of Alagasia. Oh, liquid temptress, neath the azure sky, your gilded expanse calls me. For I would sail ever on, were it not for the elven maid, who calls me. She binds my heart with a lily-white tie, never to be broken save by the sea, ever to be torn twixt the trees and the waves.
Wow.
Wow.
You're welcome.
And that's one of 13 stanzas.